Hey everybody, I'm Oakley at Oakley Does Everything,
And I am Tristan from the Tristan Maker YouTube channel.
and this is Maker's Market. Stay tuned. Hey,
Hey,
how's it going?
pretty good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for being here and doing this for me. I very much appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Tristan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
My name is Tristan. I have a YouTube channel named Tristan Maker. I make all sorts of stuff, mostly cosplay related things, prop weapons, armors. And I live in Quebec, Canada. So my first language is French. And I thought it would be a pretty cool challenge to try and make all my videos in English. And it's good practice. So that's why I do it. And yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Yeah, and I tell you what, besides like the slight accent, I never would have noticed, honestly,
Oh, thank
because
you.
yeah, from the, two times that we've spoken with each other, your English is very good. So I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you're not even that old, really, right?
I'm 17.
You're 17. Holy smokes, dude. Yeah, that's awesome. And you've already graduated high school?
Yeah.
That's
So right
great.
now I'm in CJEP.
Yeah, and you were telling me a little bit about that. Could you explain what CJAP is for people that aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, so in Quebec, it's different from the rest of Canada or the US. So essentially, we have primary school, then high school, and then before university, we have CJEP. It's either 2 or 3 years. And when you're doing 3 years, it's a technic. And I'm doing a technic right now. So I'm studying in mechanical engineering.
Nice. And I think when we were talking last, we kind of figured it out that your Technics or CJAP is kind of the equivalent to community college in the States or like technical college.
Yeah.
Yes, which is awesome and definitely a good path to take. Especially in the States, like college can be really expensive, and doing a couple of years of technical college or community college is a good way to save money and learn a lot of really useful information about things that you might not at a college or a university. So props to you for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know what? We're just going to go straight into our this or that questions if you're good with
Awesome.
it. All right. So,
Yep.
for those of you that aren't familiar, I ask my guests a bunch of random questions. Typically, I do a little bit of research on them to see what kind of things they're into, what things they like, and just kind of pick their brains about some of the things that viewers might not know just by watching their YouTube channel. So, the first one, what is your favorite dragon species from How to Train Your Dragon?
Oof. I'm really not sure. I think Stormfly species is
Yeah,
kind of cool. I don't remember the name,
yeah,
but I think that the fact they can throw spikes is pretty cool.
yeah. And I love how they developed Stormfly to be like a dog that loves to play fetch.
Yeah, that's really funny how they make it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, Stormfly is really entertaining to watch. And for me, I gotta say that I'm pretty partial to the Night Furies. I did name my second car after Toothless. It was an all black sports car, and so I went with I named my car Toothless for for those of us weirdos that like to name our cars. So,
Yeah, that's cool.
awesome. All right, next question. Who is your favorite member of the Fellowship of the Ring?
Oof. I think Sam because we don't give him enough credit, and he saves Frodo pretty much all the way through. And I think he's just such a great dude.
Yeah, no, I
He's
totally agree.
just the nicest person could ask for, I think.
Yeah, and it's crazy how he kind of got all caught up in it, and he's kind of the silent hero of the whole trilogy, really.
Yeah.
I like a lot of people go with easy answers like Legolas or Gandalf or something like that, but I guess I didn't expect you to say Sam, but he's definitely probably the most important character in
I think he is. Yeah.
the Fellowship for sure. So that's a good one. What is the what's your favorite prop that you've ever made?
Oof, that's a hard one. because I make mostly helmets, so the props I made, my best ones are up here on the wall. And to be honest, it's kind of hard to choose between the Urukai sword and the Astrid's axe. I really couldn't choose between those two, but they're my two favorite for sure.
Nice. Well, what about them do you like so much?
Well, the Rukai sword, I think it's just so detailed. I really put a lot of work into the detailing, making sure it looks like all used and grungy, and I think that's what makes it look cool. And
Mm.
for the Astrid Zax, well, because I love How to Train Your Dragon, that gives it some importance to me. But also, it's so big, and when you hold it, you just feel so empowered. It's so cool.
Nice, good. Yeah, those are pretty good answers. And when I saw the Urukai sword, I was very impressed. And I think the foam armory, is that the
Yep.
person you did the collaboration with? I
Yes.
think he was also pretty impressed with the detail, and especially with the handle, because even though it looks like leather, it is foam, correct?
Yes, it is foam.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it looks
Thank
so
you.
good. And Astrid, like I'm on this. I we're of like mind where I'm a huge fan of How to Train Your Dragon, and anything from that movie, I'm a huge fan of. And I think that's actually how I found you. I think I was telling you the other night that it was either through your Iron Man Toothless armor
Yes.
or your Hiccup from the Hidden World suit that you made, and so both of those are stellar, and
Thank you.
we'll make sure to have pictures below this so people can know what we're talking about.
Great.
All right, so moving on, what is your favorite Star Wars movie or series?
For the movie, got I really like Revenge of the Sith. I think that's one of the best. Well, for the three first movies, well, the one, two, three, I think it's
Yeah.
this one's the best of the three. And Empire Strikes Back, well, is everyone's favorite Star Wars movie,
Yes.
so it's also one of my favorite. I'd say those two are the best in my opinion. But I think Revenge of the Sith takes it. Just it, all the lightsaber combat is so cool, and the CGI is so well done in this movie in particular. Uh, the big scene in space at the start of the movie is, I think, the best scene.
Yeah.
It's so cool, and that's why I like it so much.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that the end of Revenge of the Sith between Anakin and Obi-Wan has got to be the best choreographed lightsaber
Yeah,
battle of all time, in my
that's
opinion.
something you could consider as beautiful. It's
Oh yeah,
so well made. Yeah.
yeah, it's very elegant and very well done and very smooth. And like you said, the CGI is very smooth and very easy to not notice, really,
Yeah.
mostly because it's so well done. And I would have to say that I also like Revenge of the Sith. I don't know if it's my favorite, but one of the reasons I like the beginning of it so much is because you're coming in, if you know nothing about the Clone Wars or didn't watch the cartoon like little mini movie that they did back
Yeah,
in
yeah.
2003, I think, you have no idea what's happening going into it. But when you have that extra context of the animated series and that cartoon movie, it just kind of gives you so much more information about how we got to this point and what's been happening for the last X amount of years in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And I agree, like that opening sequence is amazing, and
Yeah.
that's a good choice. I like that one too. What was your very first ever cosplay that you did?
My very first cosplay. I did one armor as a Halloween costume, which was just like an armor, nothing in particular.
Okay.
And but my second cosplay was an attempt at Iron Man, and I wanted to make it orange and black. And I think it for a first real cosplay, because my first armor I made it pretty quickly and didn't put much effort into it.
Yeah.
But this one, which I spent like I think 2 months and a half on the Iron Man armor, I think it turned out pretty good for first cosplay. Of
Yeah.
course, right now when I'm looking at it, I don't think it looks good. But you know, for first cosplay, it's I think pretty good.
Good. Yeah, because I'd say that's a pretty big project to jump into for a first time, cosplay for sure.
Yeah.
So what, like, that being the first thing you worked on, like, what references or things like that did you use to help you get along? Because like I said, that's a first big project to take on.
Yeah.
How do you put it together?
Well, I knew at that point because I've been watching Punish Props and all of those cosplayers and prop makers, so I knew that the helmet was gonna be the hardest part. I thought let's start with the helmet, and if I can do it, then I'll make the rest of the armor. So I watched Zien Prod's video on a Mark IV Iron Man helmet, and the patterns were free. So I
Okay.
just downloaded them and traced them on big, thick floor mat foam,
Yeah.
and it worked out. The helmet I think is the best part of the armor. And then for the rest, because I really didn't have any money, I didn't want to spend like $25 on a template for the whole armor,
Mhm.
so I freehanded it, and that's why it's not that great. That's one of the reasons. Yeah, but for something freehand, which if you're starting cosplay, I wouldn't recommend doing your first full suit of armor freehand. I would buy a template. I think it's worth it. Like $25 for a full armor template. I think it's totally worth it because you know that your armor is at least going to be somewhat good because
Right.
you have something to use as a reference. Uh, so yeah, but I made it freehanded. It came out how it did for that reason.
Do you have pictures of it?
Yeah, I have. I can
Okay.
send you some.
Yeah, I'd love to see those, and we'll make sure everybody else sees them too. So, okay,
Awesome.
cool. Yeah, I at the beginning of 2020, I made a Jean Arc armor, and it
Yeah.
was a chest and then I made the shield and the sword out of wood, and then I made my own hoodie for it, and that was a lot of fun. And so I kind of like just dipped my toe in the armor aspect of making cosplay armor, because like I said, it was just a chest piece, and I freehanded it also myself, like, you know doing it one time, checking, cutting out a piece of foam, checking, oh, that's
Yeah.
not the right size, make it a little bigger. And it is very rewarding when you get done doing it, uh,
Yes.
of course. But yeah, it does make it a lot easier for if you're doing it for the first time to have somebody else kind of do the hard work. But I would imagine you probably learned a lot from that yourself, uh,
Yes. Yeah.
because now you're selling templates uh, of stuff you've made, right?
Yeah. Well, I think you're gonna learn a lot more by freehanding. So maybe if you're gonna make a second or third armor, then you should do it freehand because I wouldn't have learned just half of what I did making it if I had purchased the templates.
Right. Yeah. And tell us a little bit about the stuff that you sell. Like, you said that you make templates that you sell for, different things. Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I have an Etsy store which has the same name as the YouTube channel, and I sell templates of mostly helmets. I also sell templates for leg armor and all those things that people might not want to pattern out of themselves because it's hard to pattern something really 3D with lots of curves.
Right.
Uh, but after making some really simple templates for beginners, I started making Star Wars helmets, and I thought it would be cool to make templates for them because I spent my first helmet, the Stormtrooper, which you can kind of see, I think, right
Yep.
here.
Yep.
Uh, I spent like 2 or 3 months on it and made like 5 different helmets, well, prototype helmets to
Yeah.
get to that point. And after making the templates, I was like, well, maybe other people want to make it too, so I should make them available. And because I spent so much time and worked so hard on them, maybe I should, sell them. I try to sell them for as cheap as I can so that other people can make it even if they don't have money. So yeah, I think that's why I decided to make templates in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's really cool too, because, when we were talking last, we were discussing about why we have our YouTube channels, and because in your intro, or maybe it was talking about your CJAP that you're doing, but you kind of have aspirations to be a mechanical engineer in the future. And I asked, like, well, how does your YouTube stuff tie into like what your future career is? And you were saying that it's mostly like just a hobby that
Yeah.
for you. And so when you make a product like a template or something like that and you want to sell it for cheap, I I think that's a really admirable cause, because you're trying to get other people involved in your own passion that also want to try it. And
Yeah.
and you know, for two reasons it's really rewarding. The first thing that's rewarding is like, oh cool, somebody wants to give me their money for something I made. And then the second thing that's rewarding is, oh, somebody like thought my thing was good enough that they now made it themselves. And that's a really great feeling. I've had people reach out to me for templates for my Jean Arc armor, and that was really gratifying for me. Like, I don't have an Etsy shop or anything like that, but they just messaged me on Instagram and stuff like that. They're like, hey, do you have this? I'm like, yeah, send me your email, here you go. It's like piece of cake. And so it is really rewarding when you make something like that that people want and is also
Yeah.
really accessible. So that's awesome. Why helmets? I know that you mentioned that you've made a lot of helmets, and
Yeah.
so, like, why do you like making helmets so much?
I don't know, because I like making costumes more than props,
Okay.
because it's something that you get to wear, let's say in a con or something. And I think that if you're gonna just make one part of the armor, well, you're gonna make the helmet, because I think it's a better display piece and it's more complicated. So let's say you already made the helmet, then you can make the rest of the armor because you have a base. And yeah, I think that's why I like making helmets so much.
Yeah, and it's always a good first step. And I kind of like, based off of the things I've made so far, I actually enjoy making the prop more than the armor, because for
Okay.
what you just said, like, you can display it, and having the helmet as a really excellent display piece, because the white stormtrooper behind you, or it actually looks more like a clone trooper. I don't know if I'm seeing
Yeah. Yeah.
one. But that one, like, from here, it looks very good. Like,
Thank you.
I wouldn't have guessed that it was made out of foam, if it is it right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have been able to tell that. So it's really good. So go check out Tristan's Etsy shop, and we'll have a link below so that you guys know where to find that. Let's go back to the questions, because I'm not
Yeah.
done yet. What is your favorite material of choice?
EVA foam.
EVA foam? Yeah, I
Yeah, for
figured that
sure.
might be an easy one. What if everything else was like the same cost as EVA foam?
Okay.
Is there something else that you would prefer to use?
Well, I don't have a 3D printer, but if it was the same cost, like let's say you could have a 3D printed piece for the same cost as making it out of foam, I would probably say 3D printing.
Yeah,
Because I made a helmet, I finished a helmet which was 3D printed, and it's so fun to like make it super smooth and
yeah,
glossy, and it's much easier to make it seamless than something made out of EVA foam.
right.
So I think 3D printing would be a good option. Also, maybe Warbler, because like EVA foam, you can heat it up, form it. You can work it pretty much in the same way and using the same tools.
Right.
And the thing you make is much more durable because it's plastic, like hard plastic.
All right, and I got two more questions. The next one I feel
Yes.
like is probably a pretty easy one.
Okay.
Metric or standard?
You know what? I work with both actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because before, well, when you're younger in Canada, they learn they teach you to mostly use metric. But now that I'm studying in engineering, well, you work with pieces and things made in the US, so you have to use imperial a lot of the times. Well, I mostly use imperial for school,
Yeah.
and now that I use it at school when I use it more and more in the shop when I'm making my cosplays.
Okay, cool. And
So
that
both.
actually, yeah, okay, cool. That's awesome. I would have guessed like only metrics, but with your studies in mechanical engineering, that totally makes sense to be able to do both. And for me, I also like to do both as well. You know, you get a good combination of like, oh, we're, you know, for me, like to visualize something, I think in inches, but when it comes down to like, if I have to like split something in half, like it's like,
Yeah.
you know, what's this, you know, like, you know, 4 inches and 3/64 or whatever, like what is that in half? And then I'll like split, you know, I'll switch it over to I'll use my calipers, switch it over to
Yeah.
the metric, and then divide it, because it's a lot easier for me to do that rather than dividing fractions in all
Yeah.
honesty.
Well, I find when you have a calculator nearby, it's easier to use metric. But
Yeah.
let's say you're making something which is bigger, let's say chest plate or even a helmet.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna measure in imperial a bit more, because the centimeter is so small that, let's say you want to make a helmet, it's like 23 centimeters instead of, let's say, 8 inches, you know. So I think it's easier in inches, and it's fractionary, so you can say like 8.5 or 8.25. In millimeters, it's, or in centimeters, it would be 2.25, which is, I think, more complicated, takes longer for some
Yeah.
reason, I don't know.
Sure. No, and math works differently for, you know, different people. Like for me, like I'm not when it comes to like math and I guess you would say intelligent kind of things, I'm not very good at it. Like when it comes to like logical problems, I'm
Yeah.
pretty good at those kind of things. Sounds like you got a big brain on you. So like yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I think you'll do well as a mechanical engineer. And
Thank you.
with that, like what are you currently working on? Because I know what you're currently working on.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I think you're talking about my next video. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm working on three different lightsabers. One made from cardboard, the second one made from plastic and PVC, and the third one is aluminum. Um, and I think it's cool to show in one video the the three different materials you can work with, because they all require different tools
Mm-hmm.
and different costs also, because let's say the aluminum one, you have to turn it on a lathe, which costs thousands of dollars. Which, by the way, I don't have one. It's at school. I did at school. But let's say you want to make something out of cardboard, you might already have everything at home. Maybe not the aluminum tape, which you can cover the cardboard lightsaber with to make it look shiny. But you know, making something out of cardboard can look really good if you put enough time and effort into it, and it doesn't cost nearly anything. And let's say the PVC or and plastic lightsaber does cost a little bit, but you can come out with something pretty good for, let's say, $15 or $20.
Right. Yeah. And when you were talking about the lathe and the one out of aluminum, that's
Yes.
something you did at school in one of your classes, correct?
Yes. Oh well, I in my class where we used the lathe, we had a project to do, which is evaluated. But I was done before I had a couple classes left, and I
Yeah.
was done. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll purchase like a chunk of aluminum and turn it into a lightsaber. So
Yeah.
that's what I did.
So what are some of the things you're doing at your school that may also benefit you for, you know, your YouTube channel?
I think there's one class which is all about measuring things with great precision, which I think that in cosplay, mostly when you work with foam, you don't have to be precise because the foam stretches and compresses. But because I'm learning how to work in more precise way, I think I can apply it into cosplay and make everything just that bit better, because it's more precise. You know, if you work with foam, you can stretch it, but it's always going to look a bit better if you cut it right the first time.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you cut it nice and smooth and you get that one cut
Yeah.
rather than having to go back and make multiple passes. That's always beneficial too. But did I interrupt you?
No,
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I had to say. Yeah.
Cool. Well, and that's really awesome. Like my background is music education. I went to school for music and just kind of like hobby stuff. I worked on cars and did all that stuff. And it wasn't until, honestly, a couple of years ago that I got into cosplay or prop making and stuff like that. And like, it's not like I feel like I'm behind or anything like that. Like, I feel like I've accumulated a lot of skills that can transition over to my hobby or
Yeah.
working on cars because it turns out that you're also a fan of cars as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was fun to find that out, and it's always so interesting to hear about all these different people in cosplay community or prop making community, what kind of backgrounds they have, and because it's like one of the things I love to do or like that sparks in my brain is I'll be talking to somebody and they'll be like, what'd you do this weekend? It's like, oh, I took the engine out of my car, something's wrong with it, so I had to like fix it or whatever. It was like, oh, are you a mechanic? It's like, no, I'm a music teacher. And they're like, what? And it's so cool to see the diversity in
Yeah.
the prop making and cosplay community, because it's really for everybody that wants to try it, and that's
Yeah.
something that is really amazing, that you don't get in a lot of different cultures, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think also depending on what you're from. So let's say you're mostly doing art or you're a mechanic, you're gonna start cosplaying in different ways. I don't know how to really say it. You're gonna build things differently. So let's say someone who works in art maybe will put a lot of time into painting, let's say the prop to make sure every shade is impeccable and it looks like really vibrant and everything. And someone who's let's say a mechanic or an engineer will spend more time making sure the templates are perfect and cut everything like the right angle and everything. Maybe even buy a bandsaw to cut every angle perfectly. And it's really fun to watch, especially on YouTube when people do cosplay as a hobby like me, but are also, let's say, an engineer or I don't know, a mechanic. Uh, is when that's the real job, they go about building stuff according to what they do, which is I don't know, it's kind of cool, I think.
I totally agree with you, and I honestly hadn't put that together until you started saying it's like different backgrounds have different approaches. You're
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
right. And there is somebody on YouTube that I've been watching for the last year or so. His Instagram channel is May the Schwartz Be With You. His name is The Welding Geek.
oh yeah, I know him, yeah.
And so I'll just pull this up so people can see, and I'll have it below. But he does um, Mandalorian, like almost everything he does has been specifically the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
And he's done, like, he is some kind of machinist or body fabricator, and he'll do like his helmets, everything is out of aluminum. He welds everything, and like
yeah,
it's incredible the detail that he's done. Just to your point, it's so interesting how you have these different backgrounds and you approach cosplay differently. A machinist is going to machine his stuff, and
yeah,
whether or not like full metal aluminum body armor is compliant with con guidelines, like that's one thing, but like it's so cool how many people approach cosplay differently. And yeah, you're absolutely right. So you recently changed the name, right, of your
yes,
YouTube channel.
yeah,
So let's talk about that. You went
okay,
from Maker in Basement, correct,
yep.
to Tristan Makes or Tristan
Tristan Maker.
Maker. Okay, so
Yep.
talk about why you did that name change and what was the whole thought behind it.
Okay. Well, to be honest, there's no real like easy reason. I just when I started my YouTube channel, I just thought, okay, I'll make stuff in my basement, so that's how I'm gonna name my channel. It seems pretty, simple. But then I started thinking I'd like to change my name someday because I don't know. I think Maker in Basement is, well, first of all, it's a long name, and I didn't like it that much for some reason. So I looked at other options. I had a maker's workshop, which is already taken on YouTube, and it's people who make amazing stuff. So I didn't want to copy them, of
Yeah.
course. So then I thought maybe I'll have my name. This way, people can recognize me for my, my name, my actual name. And then I'll just say what I do. After that, I make stuff, and even though most of my videos have been cosplay related, I like to make other things in the future. So I thought Tristan Maker is, it's pretty broad. It lets me do pretty much anything I want. I could start working on a car tomorrow, and it would fit into my channel name because it's essentially making something.
Right.
So that's why I decided to change it, just to make it more broad and let me do more broad content.
Yeah, and one fellow basement workshopper to another.
Yes.
It's always fun to see people's workspace, and you don't need to go show us what all your space, but like you showed it to me last night, and it's not a huge space by any means. Like
no, it's pretty small.
Yeah, and it's awesome, like what people can do, like in the confines of the environment that is provided to them. And it's like being able to have your name associated with you is also different from your brand being associated to your space. And so
Yes.
similar to you, when I first started out, it wasn't until like a year and a half ago, I want to say, that I changed my name to Oakley Does Everything, and for a similar reason. I think I had my name was just Oakley Lion, like my first and last name, and
Okay.
I wanted to have something a little bit more catchy and something a little bit more descriptive of what I do. And just like you, it's like I don't really do one thing, and and most YouTubers, I would argue, do, like most of the people that have tons of followers or subscribers, like are doing that one thing because everybody that is subscribed to them wants to watch that one thing.
Yeah.
And so for me, I have gathered inspiration from people like Jimmy DiResta, Bob Claggett from I Like to Make Stuff.
Yes.
Who is just like a very general maker. They don't confine themselves to doing one specific thing, and that's kind of where I hope for myself to be. And it sounds like you have a similar idea of how you changed your name to do something along those lines, because if you put yourself as Tristan the cosplayer or Foam Armory, not saying Foam Armory is a bad name, like if he wants to do foam armor and that's the only thing
that's amazing. Yeah,
it works out well. But for people like us that want to be able to do whatever they want whenever they want, it works out well to have a more generalized name in that regard.
Yes. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And it's good planning for the future too. What, like, logistically, what did you have to do for like a logo? I saw you had a sweater with your new logo on it, and like, did you find that transition to be hard at all?
No, actually, it took me a lot of time to get to it, because I've been thinking about it for the last year, I think. And then I started thinking about the name. Then when I decided on Tristan Maker, I started working on the logo really slowly. And then I thought, I can't just change my name and logo and say nothing, so I'll have to make a video about it. Yes. So that took like a week to make. And then when everything was ready and I was 100% sure that, I did everything right, then I put it all online at once, making sure that, I did an Instagram story to make sure everyone knew what was going on. Why am I subscribed to this Tristan Maker guy?
Yeah.
So it wasn't really stressful. It just took a lot of time to make sure everything's right. And that's how I go about making pretty much everything on my channel. That's why I don't put out a video, let's say, every week, because I want to take my time, make sure everything's done right, and I don't really want to stress about it.
You're good. Good. Well, what is your kind of approach to what you want to make and how often you want to make? You know, because like you were just saying, you know, you don't want to stress about it too much because, like we said earlier, this is more for fun and a hobby for you. And
Yeah.
you know, similar to me, I am separate, or I differ that I do have the goal of making something every week or having a video every week at least. But like, what is your approach to like how often you put something up, as well as what you make in post?
Well, I think I like putting out as much as I can.
Mhm.
Uh, so it goes along with how much time I have, I think. So let's say I have a lot of time and I don't have anything planned, like it's say for a week. Then I'll try and make a whole video in that week and put it out at the end of the week. So I think like 2 months ago, I think for like those 2 months, I put out a video every week.
Mhm.
So, so that was like with my Mendo helmet and all those things. And that's because for some reason in that period of time, I had a lot of time to put into my videos, and I really was into the mindset of I want to put out a video every week for as long as I can,
Yeah.
which was really fun. But then right now, let's say I want to take things slower. I'm working on a much bigger video, and I want to make sure it's right. So it really goes with how much time I have and how I'm feeling about the thing I'm making, I think. Yeah.
Gotcha. And what about your editing process? Like, what program do you use, and how much time do you feel like you put into that?
Let's say a whole video takes about 8 to 10 hours to edit, I think. Uh, it depends, of the length of the video.
Mhm.
But yeah, about 8 to 10 hours. And I use HitFilm Express, which not a lot of people use,
I,
but
I,
it's
I,
free.
oh, okay. I've never heard of
Yeah,
it, honestly. What did you say it was?
HitFilm Express.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there's a pro version which is like $400. So you purchase once, and then when it updates, I think every month or two, you get the new features for like eternity. You just have to purchase it once, and then you
Upfront.
have all the new features, which is cool. But I don't have $400 to spend on an editing software, so I chose Express, which pretty much lets you do anything you want up to 3D editing. uh, there's some like really high end stuff that aren't in HitFilm Express, which are in the Pro version, but I would never use those things because I'm not skillful enough to use them. So for me, HitFilm Express I think is the best editing software I could ask for. Just it's free, it's really powerful, and you can actually use it on most computers. Most computers can handle it, which is something that not a lot of editing software have. Uh, so yeah, I just really like it, and I've been using it for the past 3 or 4 years. And it's kind of hard to learn a new editing program, so I decided, well, I'll just stick to it as long as I can.
Gotcha. And while we're talking about editing and stuff like that, you mentioned the other night that you are big into to movies, to making movies, shorts, and stuff like that.
Yes.
What what have you been doing, or what are you planning on doing in regards to that stuff?
Uh, I really like making movies, but I don't have the time and the money to do them because making a short film for some reason takes so much time, so much planning, and you have to have a budget. You need to at least spend, a couple $100, and if you want to make something really polished, a couple $1,000. And the hardest part is you need to have a crew. So I could go ask my friends, like, can you help me make a movie? But you, when you want to make a movie and it takes like a whole week of work, you don't want to ask someone like, let's say, 5 people to help you out for that whole week. That's not really something you can do.
Right.
So that's why I haven't come around to making a big short film, even though I have so many ideas and I even wrote a couple of scripts and I would love to make one. But even with COVID, that's even harder. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Like I remember my point. All right, so, sometimes like I made the joke the other night. It's like I only speak one language, and sometimes I have a hard time talking. So, but even now, like you're using your passion for movie making in your YouTube videos,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and so there's that outlet as well. And are there any like little like signature Tristan things that you like to do when it comes to your videos, or like is there?
Yeah, yeah. Well, when I finish a prop, so let's say I finish my clone trooper helmet or my stormtrooper helmet, in the B-roll at the end of the video, I like to do like one special thing. I can't always do it, but let's say for the clone stormtrooper helmet, I had in when filming the B-roll, I then edited a like little light that would follow the lines of the helmet.
Oh,
Uh, and then for the I made a LARP sword, and I had animations when I was swinging it around, and the little animations came up. That's something I really like to make. So I'm willing to spend, let's say, 2 or even 3 hours, and I think one of those took me even a full day. And
wow.
I'm willing to put that time into those things because, well, that's something that lets me practice editing in
Yeah.
general and special effects and stuff, or VFX, sorry. And that's what I like most about editing. Cutting pieces of video and putting them together. It's not something that I find really fun. I have to do it because it's part of my videos. But
Right.
the most fun part to me is the visual effects.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. And you're actually the first person that I've interviewed that actually has interest in that kind of thing. And so that's really cool. And so I might get some pointers from you in the future off of this, and see how I might incorporate something like that too. Because I'm hoping
Awesome.
to start upgrading my stuff as well. And I actually took a little pointer from you in my last video. I watched some of it was your most recent one, the Orakai sword,
Yeah.
off behind your left shoulder, I believe. Um, I had been either talking to the camera while I was doing it, and then some of my more recent ones, I just edited and then typed in so that people would just read it, uh,
Yeah.
the description and stuff like that. But this time, like I watched your stuff and I'm like, well, you like that might be a good thing to do. I actually did a voiceover uh,
Yeah.
for my last video, and so far it's been doing very well. And I did find that that allows me to spend more time and focus on making the thing, and not have to worry
Yeah,
about
it does.
stopping talking, pointing, talking, stuff like that. And so it might be something I continue to do. So thank you for that little bit of inspiration. So nice work. But I think we're going to start wrapping it up. Can you go ahead and run us down the list of social medias that you have?
Yeah, well, I don't have many. So the first one, which I think is the most important, is my YouTube channel. So Tristan Maker. Uh, and then there's my Etsy shop, which is also Tristan Maker, where I sell, templates and sometimes finished helmets or finished props. It happens, but not a lot, but sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, and my Instagram, which is at Tristan. What is it? I forgot. Yeah, it's at Tristan _ maker _ channel.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I post. I don't post much stuff, but when I want to like say something or do a project update, I do it in my stories. And for every finished project I have, when the video comes out, I have a couple high quality pictures that I put up in my posts. So yeah, that's my three social medias.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to have pictures and images below so everybody knows what to look for when they're looking for it. And so,
Awesome.
yeah. And if anybody's coming to this video from Tristan's YouTube channel or any of his other social media and are new to my channel, which is Oakley Does Everything, I would very much appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button to me. That helps me out a lot. And it's an awesome way to get collaborative effort between the two of us. And those of you that are watching my video from my channel, channel, go hit Tristan up and definitely subscribe. He is very close to 1,000 at the recording of this, so it would be kind of cool to get some of my followers over to him and get him over that hump. I think that would be pretty awesome. So yeah, but I think that's gonna wrap it up. So Tristan, thank you so much for doing this. I very much appreciate it, and it's awesome to see such a young person doing so much work of their own accord.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's been great, actually. It's been really great, really fun also.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Thank you. Again, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's going to be in the middle. Sometimes there, sometimes I don't know. So either way, hit the subscribe button. If you want to check out some other Makers Market videos, we'll have those videos queued up for you right there. But other than that, we'll see you on the next video. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
All right, and that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool.